Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book which is one we've reviewed before on health and safety. It comes to us from the firm called Wolters Kluwer, and the book title is one that's an annual publication now called The Law of Health and Safety at Work. And the one I'm reviewing, the edition I'm reviewing, is for 2017 to 18. Which is the 26th edition, and it's been written by Rachel Moore. Let's have a look at the book first of all. It's a paperback. As I say, I've reviewed this before. You can see where it is there. That's the spine, and then you can see some of the detail on the back. Borrowed a little bit of the information on the back just for the review because it won't necessarily be available online or in the journals. Now the index is actually by paragraph numbering. You can see the way it's structured there. This is a detailed book. I think it's a book which is very suitable for a wide range of different readers. So obviously lawyers will be involved in this, but a very large number of other people will also find the book of some assistance, because it has such a lot of information. You can see there's the actual index there. It's a subject index, and it tells you how it's actually structured. So that if you're looking for anything in particular, you will find that information. We do have appendices with this particular work, which gives you an idea of some of the very detailed information that Rachel has included. Now on the front, there's the front cover again. We've got the basic statement about the book. Then after that we have the list of when books were published and a foreword, which is always of great help. I'm going to mention the foreword in some detail in a minute. Then there's the preface itself and the contents section. The preface is written by Rachel Moore in September 2017, so it's actually pretty new. I'm recording this in the autumn of 2017. There's the contents section there. You can see the structure of the book coming through, various chapter headings. We get to chapter 14, which is the number of chapters. Then you have the various appendices, and they're by they're by letter rather than number, A, B and C and so forth. And then there's the glossary and the index. A table of statutes, of course, which is a must. Then a table of regulations and orders. That's how they call them, the statutory instruments, in other words. And then after that you've got the case law. So the case law, not first in the list, but third in the list, in fact. Quite a large number of cases. Then you get into the various chapters. Chapter 1 sets the scene, why we need the new legislation, the background to it, and what we have at the moment. I think it should be compulsory viewing for readers of the Daily Mail. Mr. Littlejohn and Mr. Letts, please note. There's Appendix D, which is the glossary, which I'm sure you will find of great help when looking at the book. And you can see there's a lot of information. Quite useful signs, for instance, just classically in the middle, general health and safety signs, for instance, dealing with hazardous materials and that sort of thing. So you see everything you really need to have is there. A total number of pages. It's just over 600, and as I say, we're very pleased to review this book again. It's an important book and one that I'm sure will be, as I say, available for a whole range of people, not just the legal community. Now, the headline that I've given for our book review is another edition of this short annual handbook on health and safety at work, the 26th edition for 2017 to 18, and a treasure for all in this field, which is exactly what it is. And this is what we say. As we said with the last edition, which was the 25th edition, it's always a pleasure to review Rachel Moore's annual editions of the Wolters Kluwer paperback on health and safety at work laws, which is what this is. And so it is, of course, the case with the new edition. And as Teresa Budworth writes in the foreword, this year, this is 2017, more than 40 years have now passed since the 1974 Act, that's the leading act, actually came into effect. And she says, there is no doubt that the Act has had a major impact on health and safety in the UK and has saved many lives. Now, as I've said, that's an important factor to bear in mind, because the view by some commentators is it's gone too far. And like everything else, it's all about getting a balance, getting a reasonable approach, whatever sort of words you want to use, but it is really that balance that is being sought. Now, the new 26th edition, which doesn't go into any controversies, as it were, but actually tells you where we are at the moment with the regulations, the rules. The 26th edition for 2017 to 18 has now appeared as we grapple with Brexit, and therefore whether there will be any long-term changes, I don't know, but there is definitely a change of attitude in the winds, and as a result it may well be that we do see changes to health and safety legislation and of course things like the Human Rights Act and all the other things that have been a bit of a bugbear for certain commentators. Whether it's right or wrong is irrelevant. Now, Teresa, who I mentioned before, comments that some people consider that safety legislation has gone too far. However, she rightly points out, we think, that reviews in recent years have found that the framework of legislation under the umbrella of the Enabling Act, that's the 1974 Act, is fit for purpose, that's the phrase they like, requiring a proportionate approach to managing risk. Again, the word proportionate is a very popular word too. But you can see the basic views coming forward. And for that reason alone then, we take the view that Rachel Moore's new edition is very welcome, and that the hard work she puts in each year to give us such a good service in this area of law is something that we are very grateful to her and of course the publishers for. To remind readers, of course, the original work was produced by the late Norman Selwyn, and as the editor reminds us, quote, "The importance of health and safety cannot be underestimated." It's a straightforward statement, with compliance literally meaning the difference between life and death in extreme situations. And how right she is with this sentiment, because it doesn't matter who you are and what you're doing, you've got to have some common sense about clearly a state of affairs where there is a serious risk that you could be injured or hurt because of someone's lack of foresight in taking the right decision, or in fact doing something that is clearly something that shouldn't be done. So you can see the difficulties that we have to sort of juggle with. Now, the reason for the short book's continuing success in our view, and it runs to, as I say, about 600 pages, is its popularity with both businesses and organisations who manage health and safety issues in their own fields. And I can think trade union officials would, in my view, certainly benefit from this publication as one of the big groups, bearing in mind that that's really what their job is, apart from some of the things they seem to think they want to do, which isn't really what part of their mandate. Certainly the health and safety bit is, and I think this book would be helpful for them. The view, again, is given by the editor that the people who are readers of this book are likely to be more efficient and financially healthier if they do so, because it's the understanding of the rules which we think will help every level of reader, depending on what level you're at and what responsibilities you've got. And the reason, of course, is that accidents and ill health remain a major annual cost to an organisation. It's a fact of life, and it's something that we shouldn't shirk. Now, Budworth remarks that the Act underpins the work of health and safety practitioners who are often, quote, charged with helping their organisation to understand and comply with legal requirements. And this is where the beauty and the benefits of the book are found with the new edition, which of course is fully up to date. The title is also a most important current statement on the law, which is not going to be immediately affected in any way by this unfortunate decision to leave Europe, Brexit, on the 29th of March 2019. I gather at 2300 hours onwards. That's what we've been told when I'm recording this video today. Now, although many regulations have arisen to transpose EU directives, it is correct that during the changes which are bound to occur during Brexit, this is with the negotiations, with the ending of the relationship and that intervening transition period, which is what I've envisaged they're talking about at the moment, it means therefore that the regulations will remain in effect, and many can be considered to simply add more detail to the principles which existed in United Kingdom health and safety law from before the time that we joined the EU, or common market, whatever you want to call it, in other words, in 1973. And we're sure then that this is right, so that the businesses who read this book will continue to find what I call this little gem of a book, just the handbook for them during this tremendous period of upheaval which we're now embarking upon. Now, as Moore has concluded, and we do too here, we still do not know what laws may or may not be changed, but we do know one thing, and this is a quote: "The UK is already seen as a global leader on health and safety standards, so any changes will try and reinforce that status, and that's probably exactly what's going to happen with Brexit when it actually bites." So thank you very much, Rachel, for the work you've done and for setting out and keeping the balance between a degree of risk and its management as we enter the 2020s. And now the publication date for this edition is cited as at July 2017, and the author thanks Gordon Tranter, who updated chapter 14 and the appendices. Now, as I say, the actual foreword, I think it is, the preface, just check the actual words for it. I think it's the preface itself. Yes, the preface. That is actually dated September 2017, but we're talking about the late summer of 2017 when this came in. Of course, a lot of things have happened very quickly since I wrote the review and since I've done this, now prepared this recording. There's the book again anyway, the front and then the side and then the spine. And then you can see, just opening it up in the middle, health and safety management. Again, very important. This is looking specifically at regulations. You see the paragraph numbering that is available. You can see again, as I mentioned, there's quite a lot of visuals as well. Very helpful for many people. There are no footnotes, you'll be pleased to hear, but you do have the actual paragraph numbering all the way through, which links, of course, to the chapter numbers. Well, thank you very much to Rachel Moore and to Wolters Kluwer for producing this work. I think it's an excellent book to have, and it's one that any business ought to consider having in this day and age. And we welcome and look forward to the next edition for 2018 to 19. In the meantime, thank you to all. Bye-bye.